DJ, some people used the A word. They called it an accident, but it wasn't. An accident implies that no one was at fault. But when someone impaired by alcohol and/or drugs chooses to drive, they're fully responsible for the crash that can result. So please, for the memory of my brother DJ and the thousands of families whose lives have been shattered by impaired drivers, let's drop the A word.
A crash caused by impaired driving is not an accident.
Good evening, and welcome to a special edition of Out of the Fog. As you know, Rogers is all about community, giving back in so many ways, and so is Jason Piercey. Jason has been a host of Out of the Fog for several seasons, and he has done so much in and outside of the show to show his commitment to the people and the place where we live. Early this fall, Jason was in a very serious accident, and now Joe Dominix, his lifelong best friend and friend of Rogers TV, sits down for a special interview to let us know the question that everyone has been asking: how is Jason? Stay tuned.
You're watching Rogers TV St. John's.
Who are you?
My grandfather was a Ghostbuster.
This thing is real?
What did we let out?
I think we opened the gates of hell.
Hey, bud. You're watching Rogers TV St. John's.
Welcome back, everybody, for a special edition of Out of the Fog, a sit-down interview with Joe Dominix, best friend of Jason Piercey. Let's go back.
So Jason, thanks for sitting down and taking the time to talk to us. People are real curious about how you're doing these days.
Yeah, that's fair. I've been sort of to myself and pretty unavailable on social media, which is a stark adjustment to the rest of my existence prior to the afternoon or evening of September the 29th, which is the date of what will be from now until forever referred to as the incident. But it's good and fun, and I'm glad that I get the opportunity to sit down and have a conversation, because it's good for my head too. Like, doing stuff like this is always such a big part of life for me, and it's much like all of the other muscles in my body, it's not been exercised very much for a really long time. So I'm really glad to be able to do this.
So for anybody who doesn't know what happened, just bring us back to a few months ago when this all went down, and just tell us what you remember, I guess, of it.
I don't remember the actual accident itself. I know I had been down in Portugal Cove with a client. I'm riding my motorcycle. It was one of the last nice days of the year, as it turned out. So I was coming up out of Portugal Cove and coming down into St. John's. I was going to go get a bite to eat. It was shortly after 4 o'clock. I was stopped at the lights on Major's Path, and I was headed down into St. John's, and I remember the light turning green, and I remember starting to move forward, and the next thing that I have as a memory is some combination of reality and hallucination, actually, and maybe thoughts that I had while I was in, because I was in a coma for a while, an induced coma for 8 or 10 days or something. So I don't know whether or not my first memories are real memories, or if they're like half dream, half hallucination, because I was on a lot of opioids for painkillers.
Right.
Proud to say that this was not my fault. Mom, I rode my bike safely, and I just happened to get cut off the sun, and it's just how it happened. So somebody came across the lane, and I couldn't swerve or stop in time, and neither could they. So
It was a pretty significant accident, to say the least.
Yeah. There were, I guess it's okay to just, it's awkward maybe to just like list injuries, but I mean, I have a cane now. I shouldn't have it forever, but I have it for a while.
But for anybody wondering the extent of what you've gone through.
Yeah, so I guess I'll just sort of list them. I broke either 15 or 16 individual bones were broken at least once. I had a lot of internal bleeding. That was actually one of the riskiest parts of everything. So I've come to learn after the fact that a human male around my size has like 7 or 8 pints of blood in them, like the pint, like a measurement. And I needed to have 5 pumped into me just because of what I lost on the way to the hospital. I nearly bled out, so it was a tiny miracle that like that didn't happen from the internal bleeding. They cut me open to find the bleeding, and it's just like, I call them tiny miracles. Try and think of like a bunch of things to be happy about, to be grateful for. So I started making this list of what I came to call my little miracles, or my tiny little miracles. So like a list of things that are unlikely to have happened as individual items, and the fact that I had so many of them, and they were all like statistically like so unlikely, like barely possible at all. And I have like this amount of them that stack on top of one another. So I eventually fell asleep because I was so filled with like a warmth and a gratitude that I was fortunate enough to have even one of these little things, let alone 10 or whatever. And so anyway, one of them, the reason I got to that is when they opened me up to find the bleeding, you have a lot of stuff inside you, in around your belly and your abdomen and in your chest and in all these places, and they're all really, really important. They're there because they keep you alive, right? But I had one organ that was irreparable. It was just shredded. It was like in pieces, and that's where all the blood was coming from. And it was the only one that was damaged anywhere in my abdomen. Now it was destroyed, but everything else was fine. And the only one that was hurt was the only one that you can take out and you don't really need. So I think, at least, I don't know for sure, but I think that internal bleeding, that damage, and one of the bones I messed up was my pelvis. So that whole thing got really terribly beat up. It's put back together now, and that's why I guess need this to walk. So my spleen was destroyed, but nothing else inside me, just spleen. I guess the significance of some of the bones I broke, like I broke 2 in my neck, because like either one of them could move a little bit more that way or a little bit more that way, and like messed up the actual spine, and nothing from down there would ever work again. So like that was another one of those like little miracles. I broke my neck in 2 places and nothing happened.
Wow.
They could just wrap a thing around me and not let me move, and they just grow back together, and it's okay. So, and the pelvis, of course, I mentioned, was another big break. It's what they call it is an open book fracture, which means just imagine like a butterfly, and then it just closes its wings, and that's kind of what it was like. It just like flop and just in pieces, kind of everywhere. So that was a really big one, and I was in the hospital for several weeks because the first 8 or 10 days they put me in a coma to make sure that I didn't mess my neck up. I didn't have paralysis. I didn't have brain damage. I don't know. You've been around. Am I missing any?
I think you've listed most of the things.
I don't know how many pieces of the body are left. Like, I didn't break any teeth. Nothing happened to my face, which was really, really lucky.
So when you got out of the hospital, you spent a good bit of time just here in your living room, like you said, with all this equipment. Obviously, you weren't alone because you're not able to care for yourself at that point. You had a great support system through your parents.
I did, yes, and not just my parents, also like a core group of friends. A of which you, of course, still are, and I can't imagine after everything that's gone on over the last number of months you will ever not be. There's been a huge amount of people that I'm grateful for, and if we were to go even further, like there's some of the support and fundraising, and like it's just, I've spent a lot of time thinking about it, and like I've not had like I said, very many, other than the arm ripping thing, other than that, there's not been stuff that has made me sad or dark or scared or anything. The support that I have had, especially from my parents, my friends in the community, all of it, I've spent my time on all of it. All of it has made me cry. But my parents in particular are, like, I can't even, they effectively moved into my house the night of the accident. And the only times that they have left have been because there was something needed here that wasn't here. So they would go to get it, to bring me to appointments, because I've had a whole bunch of appointments back and forth. And when they couldn't bring me because I couldn't stand, I had to be picked up in like this sling with like a miniature crane, like a lift, and put on another kind of thing so that the paramedics could put me in the ambulance to bring me to the hospital for an appointment and then bring me back. And they went to everything. And even when I was in the hospital, they would be lined up at the door waiting to be allowed in for visiting hours. So whatever time, whatever day it was, whatever, because like they're open at different hours on different days, and there's like evening hours and they were there waiting, and were asked to leave because they were there later. And like, I can't even, I don't even have words to the amount of gratitude. I'm not far from 40. My birthday's coming up relatively soon. I'll be 39. I have lived on my own since I graduated high school. And I've lived with my parents now for 3 or 4 months. And I loved them in a way that I didn't even know. Like you learn something about when you go through some kind of like emergency or a trauma, or things go one of two ways. You know how they say like you find out who somebody really is when like the proverbial shit hits the fan or whatever, you find out who somebody really is. Or when stuff gets really tough, you find out who your real friends are, what they're really like. There's a whole new version of my mom and dad that like, sorry, they're a quality of human being that like I didn't even, and I've always liked them. I've always thought they were great, but they're like that much more great. And it's not just them. I keep saying them, but like and I don't want to make people feel uncomfortable. So like I told my parents that I was going to talk about this when we did this, so they're okay with it, but I didn't talk to, and you're one of them. Oh shit. But I didn't talk to everybody and get their permission to do it. But like you all know who you are, and you know I'm talking about you, and you know that these tears are for your stupid face. So like I don't need to get into all of it, but I remember when I was first told that a GoFundMe campaign was started. There was like this weird, I don't know, it feels weird to me, I guess, because it was about me, or for me, I should say, for me. And my little girl is coincidentally right here. This is a Father's Day gift, and I have it all of the time. These all light up. There was a GoFundMe that was started, and that got virality in and around our city, and to other places also, like across Canada. Like I was scrolling, because when people donate, you can publicly say that you did or how much it is. You can leave a note or whatever for anybody who goes to the site to read. But if the campaign is yours, you can actually see individually everybody. And man, I don't even have words. Like, I'm told that there's a point when you go through some kind of a trauma that's going to affect your life financially for a significant amount of time. And like, I'm nowhere near going back to work. Like, I don't know when I will be. Like, this is probably going to be a 15 to 30 minute conversation, this video, right? I'm going to need a break after this. And I've been walking for like a month now, and I've gained weight back. Like I had lost 45 or 50 pounds of and I'm getting some of that back. I'm strong now, and I still can't sit up straight for an hour sometimes, right? So I'm nowhere near going back to work. So I'm told that when you find yourself in that sort of a situation, you have this moment where it strikes you, oh my God, what am I going to do? Like, how am I going to get through this? Before I was, because after the coma, then I was in on some pretty heavy pain medications, and I was there long enough to recover from a bunch of surgeries to a point where they could take me out of like intensive care and put me under, I think they call it specialty care or special care or something like that, where you have a nurse in the room with you for 24 hours a day. You're always there. There's somebody always there with you. So enough time to get me out of ICU into special care, through special care, and the ability to go into like a room, like a ward room where you, right? When all of that was done, and I started to come to, not just awake, because you can be awake and you're not fully conscious when that happens. So after all of that was out of my system and I was able to be fully aware of the magnitude of this situation, that problem was already kind of solved. And so I never had that moment of, oh my God, what am I gonna do? Because instead, I had people who cared enough to prevent me from ever having that shock. Like, how am I going to keep the house my little girl lives in? How am I going to feed her? How am I not going to have my car taken from me? How's my kid going to have Christmas? Like, I never had to experience any of that because there was so much love that got just thrown at my family. And in the sweetest, most beautiful ways, both through like the GoFundMe, which reached a dollar amount that, frankly, I'm still uncomfortable with. Like, there's a sense of like in the entrepreneurial community, there's a term called, this is one of those instances where I'm not remembering the word, imposter syndrome, where you feel like you're not good enough to do the thing that you're doing and you're making it work. It's the same sort of thing. I feel the same sort of way about the level of support that I received. I say we a lot, actually. I'm trying to say I more. I say we received, because like my family, my circle, my loved ones. And I have so much gratitude for it that I feel like I struggle with accepting deserving the degree to which the community responded. And that's really, really tough, because feeling like you deserve something, yet simultaneously being acutely and certainly, like definitively aware that you do in fact very much need it, but not always recognizing or feeling worthy of it, is a very strange dichotomy to sort through in your head. So I don't have to lose my house. And I don't have to force myself back to work way too fast. The general consensus was to a certain time frame, right? Like you'll be in the hospital probably for another month or maybe 2, and then you might be an inpatient or maybe just an outpatient for therapy at the Miller Center for anywhere of the number of weeks to 6 months, and it could be a really, really long time because everybody recovers differently, right? But with the amount of support that I had and the fact that I knew that I would have the ability to come at this with a mindset that the overwhelming amount of love I had been sent was firing. I was listening to what they were saying. I wasn't being impolite at all, and I didn't want to be like that guy. But at the same time, in my head, I was like, no, I'm not. I'm not here until then. You're not moving me from one hospital into another so that I could like practice moving my arm and learn to walk again. I'm like, no way. So at that moment, I like had a switch in my head go off. I'm like, that's not, it's not that it's not good enough for me. It's not good enough for everybody else who's already done so much and literally put their lives on hold for an amount of time that in my head is already too long for everybody else to have everything else put aside. I don't think I've ever said this to all of the people who are around me through all of this. I haven't said this. It's already way too long for everybody else to shut everything down so that I would be okay. There's no way I'm allowing for a situation, if I have any way around it, where that is any longer than absolutely necessary. And I decided that I could do it and it could change. So how do I feel about that overwhelming outpouring of support? I feel overwhelmed.
This is obviously a very, very overwhelming thing for you.
A little bit.
And Jason, it's inspiring to see somebody who could easily take all this and turn it into a negative thing, and lots of people would. So the fact that you're able to sit there and be optimistic and laugh and have a good outlook on this, it should be an inspiration for anybody watching. So thanks for taking this hard time over the last little while here to sit down and talk to us.
You're welcome. It's sincerely my pleasure. But also at the exact same time, thank you for helping to assemble it and to do it, because thank you for being one of those people on Mom's Facebook Messenger group who's in the gang, and for delivering food that your wife made, and thank you for being at the hospital in the waiting room when you couldn't see me, and thank you for putting together Jason's prescription playlist on Spotify for when I woke up and I couldn't sleep, and I could have music that was assembled by my friends because they all have a story. And thank you for organizing things behind the scenes for my real estate career and giving information and coordinating and talking to people that there's literally nobody in the world who could ever know you did it.
You deserve it, and we love you, Jason. So that's probably a good place to end right here. Any final words to everybody who's watching right now?
I would just like to say thank you to, I'm not going to say a list of names, I'm not going to mention a bunch of people, I'm not going to mention categories of people. I'm literally going to say thanks with an amount of gratitude that is all-encompassing, and an amount of thanks that if you are the most thankful and grateful person in the world, you still don't necessarily understand the degree to which I am thankful for a list of people that and an entire society that I don't know. Thank you. And tune in next week. I'm gonna go lie down.
It all started when I racked up some serious debt. Interest payments were going up, creditors were calling. Jane's and Noseworthy came up with a plan. Knowing that the phone was going to stop ringing and that I was not in this alone was a huge relief. Bankruptcy or a consumer proposal or whatever help you get is not the end. It's just the beginning. A chance to start again with knowledge and support and people in your corner. Are you ready? Get out of debt. It's okay.
Learn more about Leah's story at janesnoseworthy.ca.
Yo. Yep. Okay, I'll be there.
I'll never forget when I first met Jason. It was over 10 years ago. In my marketing career and in his real estate career, we came together and have been having laughs ever since. I hope you all have enjoyed hearing from Jason this evening for the first time in a long time. Thank you, Joe Dominix. Thank you, Rogers and Out of the Fog, for bringing Jason's incredible story into our living rooms tonight and forevermore. Please take care of each other. Be careful out there. And we'll see you next time.
If you have a comment about this program, we'd love to hear it. Email or call us or send